Hi, everybody. Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food, and we've got Friday with a friend, and we have Kim back with us. Kim was here 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago,
It aired in March.
in March.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so Kim's back with us, and she's got some splaining to do, and she said she even has notes. So, welcome, Kim. I'm so glad to see you again.
Thank you, Sarah. Happy to see you.
Okay. So, the last time you were here, you were doing okay. You were doing okay, right?
Everything was super simple then.
Super simple. And then what happened?
What happened was I hit my 1 year mark. And at that point, I had lost 68 pounds. And it was winter, which is a slow time of year around here. And boredom set in. And all of my old habits really came to light. I mean, I was aware of the things that I used to rely on. So it was a harder struggle to avoid food because I realized, oh, that's what I do when I'm at home and there's not a whole lot going on. So it wasn't awful, um, but it just made me think a lot more. And my behaviors weren't fabulous with food. I didn't really go off plan as far as what I was eating, but I did have a lot of times where I ate too much. I started snacking again, not because I was hungry, but because I had the time to do that. Um, I did not gain, but I also didn't lose. And I'm very close. I've got about 7 pounds to go, or 6 pounds now. So it's not a big deal, but it just was interesting that it came to a grinding halt. And it took me 4 months to lose 1 pound, whereas before it had been pretty steady. And I did learn to reframe that. And the way I did that was that up until this point in my life, I've never lost weight and maintained anything. I was either losing or gaining, and maybe I would maintain my gain, but I never maintained a loss. So that's my
funny.
and it's my new silver lining that, okay, I'm currently not losing, but I am maintaining, and that's something I've never been able to achieve. So there's something good in that. And I'll get there eventually. And like I said, it's close. I'm not going to get myself all hung up over it.
I've always that doing a food program for a whole year,
Mm-hmm.
paying attention will teach you the season that you have to look out for. Not,
Yeah.
And for some people, it's like the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
which to me is a season. It's just overkill. And
Mm-hmm.
there's the cookout season. I guess we have different seasons than summer, winter, fall, and spring, right?
Right.
The 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 time of year where it gets kind of slow for you. You're not as active. What
Mm-hmm.
that because of gardening and things outside stuff? Do you think?
I don't know. It just feels like there's more running around at other times of the year, whereas the winter is more centered at home. And, I started in the winter, but when you're starting, it's exciting, it's new, you're just so into everything. So there was no challenge then. But this time around, there was a challenge because it's old hat now.
It's like the second season, and yeah, it is old hat, and so yeah, I could see how that would get you into trouble. Boredom is my definite headless horseman. I
Uh-huh.
I I don't have a full button,
I never did. Yeah, I agree.
so like yeah, I could talk myself into anything being.
Hmm.
So when you snacked, what was it that you were having?
Well, it could be a plate of cheese and pepperoni, or um, just extra of whatever I had, egg salad, chicken salad, whatever beef was in the fridge, just something.
Legal.
And peanut butter.
Mm.
Oh, and and that for a good long while, I could have an occasional tablespoon of peanut butter and think, Well, that was nice, and I would enjoy it. No, now it will be the jar. So that was lesson number two, is when it becomes something I can't control, it's got to be something that goes. So, life is full of these lessons one after another, just when we think we know it all.
How do you get rid of peanut butter in a house full of kids?
Um, it actually is not a real staple here.
Okay.
My one son has an allergy to tree nuts, which is separate from peanuts, but because it's close enough, he won't touch it. My other son has his own peanut butter, and his has sugar in it, which, ugh, it's disgusting. So I won't touch that. So there's safety in that.
So that's covered. Um, did did you ever feel a sugar craving or a carb craving come back in, or was it just too much of the good stuff?
Um, I could feel a little bit of wishing for sugar, specifically ice cream, but not craving in the old sense that it was. It was just one of those, like a little bit of a longing, but not that I have to have it feeling, which is what I used to live with. Um, so it's easy to push in the back.
I think of a sweet potato every now and then. And I think because it's sweet and it's carby, that would be the acceptable, rare, and appropriate sort of thing to have.
Uh-huh.
And I think of that sweet potato accompanying some almost burned Brussels sprouts, some very, very well done, crispy Brussels sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
And I start salivating. And it's like, where did that sweet potato thing come from? Because
Uh-huh.
I'm rationalizing that it's like it's a carby thing, it's a sweet thing, but oh my God, the vitamin A.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so you hit your head against the wall and you said this has got to stop. Now, how did you come to all of this mentally and then physically stop it? And was there any white knuckling after you stopped things like snacks and
Um, there's a bit of white knuckling. Um, a lot of it is awareness, really just being aware of what I'm doing. I am a bullet journaler. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's kind of it's a way to combine record keeping, journaling, your to-do lists, your calendar, all that stuff, and kind of like an all-in-one thing. So I keep keto notes in there because I look at it every day. So it's good for me to go back and say, oh, okay, here's what I was struggling with. Here's what I learned from that. But some things that I will do when I am struggling is each week make myself a list of the things that I want to do or I don't want to do for a good long time. And I think even this week, no peanut butter is on my list. So I can check that off every day that good, you're still avoiding it. And just that little accountability to myself that I see that list and I can see what I've done or not done mentally helps me. So that's probably my best trick. And I try when I feel myself getting out of control, I do try to shorten an eating window and be diligent with that because I know I'm not hungry. If I say my normal eating window that I would, enforce, if we want to put it that way, would be 3 hours. I'm not hungry outside of that, so there's no reason, I'm not cutting myself off and saying like it's not punishment. It's just making me clean my act up. Um, so just those little things like that help.
so it's a 2 hour day that you follow?
Kind of. Um, when I'm doing that, I will have something, I guess more, they're smaller meals, but I would have a meal and then I might have two smaller snacks. Or because I may not be hungry for a second meal, but I want something else. So just whatever works for the day. Sometimes I have a couple of nights that are longer with karate. And on those nights, I do make sure that I eat extra protein and that I'm very strict with my eating window on those days because I notice that it makes a difference in how I feel at night. So, yeah, a lot of it is, like I said, it's awareness. And things were so mindless for so many years that even 1 year into keto, or now I think I'm 60 months, um, awareness is something that's still a learning process.
When you said on the nights of karate, is it because you're taking your boys to karate or are you taking karate?
I take karate and I teach.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what is more protein to you? Like if I'm looking down at your plate, what is your normal serving of like beef? And if you're having more protein, how many more ounces would that be?
I don't measure anything. I usually eat, I will heat things in a bowl. So bowl's about that big. So I might have 2 bowls of whatever meat I'm having, or it could be, bacon and eggs or something along those lines.
How many
But
eggs?
um, depends on my mood. It's usually 2 or 3, and bacon is usually heavier, like 5 or 6.
And that worked.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things too. If I do go out with friends for breakfast, lunch, or something like that. And when I do, I usually do eat bacon and eggs because that truly is satisfying. And it really, as we would have said with oatmeal, it sticks to my ribs. I can feel full for a long time on a relatively small amount of bacon and eggs, which,
Yeah.
back in the days when we would eat potatoes and toast with it, there wasn't that full feeling for hours and hours.
No, I know what you mean. There's something about protein. Since I've upped it, I have no regrets whatsoever.
Hmm.
And it just, yeah, it does stick to my ribs longer. I like it.
Hmm.
Now, how are you with coffee?
I love my coffee, and I had been throwing stuff in it, but I like it black. And I actually think I'm kind of lucky that I don't feel that still feels like a treat. So I have black coffee in the morning. I drink black iced tea in the day. I make herbal tea with nothing added during the day. Um, Mineral water, seltzer, just kind of a variety of drinks that seems to make me feel like I'm getting something extra, even though it's not extra.
Right, right. And what about your veg? Because I remember you used to like salads, right?
Yes, I did. And sometimes I will go back to a big salad because mentally it's like, oh, a treat. Um, but I'm finding that it's feeling less like a treat. And I don't mean feeling that it's making me feel ill. It's just that it's not as needed. Um, I'm not cutting way back. I'm not doing it intentionally, but I definitely am eating less vegetables than I used to. And if I feel like having them, I have them. If I don't, I don't. There's no rule on them.
Okay. And you're very good with the intuitive part of your program. You can
Yeah,
really
except for winter.
want something. What?
Except for in the winter.
Yeah, well, we'll let that go. What we're going to do is we're going to have somebody sneak into your house and remove those months on the calendar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so then, you can really trick yourself. Um, so a lot of people, as they kind of get a little more carnivish through, it's not like they're trying. It just kind of happens, like you were saying,
Hmm.
same thing. Did you always feel that the ample or maybe even over ample amount of vegetables filled you up in such a way that you could physically feel full, whereas the protein centered kind of meal took a little bit longer to get to that satiety place? Like after you finished eating, it was like quite a few minutes after you pushed yourself away from the table to feel that way. So you felt like maybe there wasn't going to be enough. Did you ever have that feeling, or do you ever have that feeling?
I don't think so. Um, it was more that it was just a variety of taste and texture. Um, but I can't say that I ever ate it because it made me feel more full. I will say that for as long as I can remember, raw vegetables or raw fruits never felt good in my stomach. I would eat them and feel nauseous. And, you know, maybe there was a reason for that.
Those anti-nutrients, right?
Uh-huh.
I always feel like there's that experiment that I remember from science classes and stuff. So you've got the glass jar and you've got the big rocks in it. And the vegetables to me would be like putting in little pebbles around it and then filling it full of water. So the whole thing is full. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the stomach and it says, okay, you've had enough. Whereas just eating the meat, to me, it takes a little bit longer. I feel it now, okay,
Well,
because I'm used to it, but
that could be true. Yeah. I would say I can't say that salad made me feel full. And I'm saying salad because that would be my when I had a lot of vegetables. Um, but having what would be a more than adequate portion of meat doesn't give me that same, sometimes it doesn't give even the same sense of satisfaction. So I still need to add something to it. And I do think some of it is a texture thing that I need crunch. So,
okay.
yeah.
That's, an awareness that you have that nobody can take that away from you. You realize
Mhm.
that you like that. What's your perfect meal, Kim?
Oh gosh, I don't even know right now. I go in phases and I am sort of in a bit of a slump right now. Um, and this is another one of these things that I've kind of become aware of that I do go through periods where I just become bored and nothing feels satisfying. But I've also been through it a few times, so I know it's going to pass and something will grab me soon. So just ride it out. Um, right now, this past week, probably what I ate most of was, and I hate this name, crack slaw. I'm sure you've seen all the, you know, well, I think you used to make a version of it too, right? Yeah. So that one was probably my most satisfying thing this past week. I'm making Reuben casserole today. Um, that's one of the things that one of my kids will eat. I make it without cheese now because I've discovered, yeah, I've been playing too much with that too. And cheese definitely is my friend. So he can add cheese to his. I will make it plain and that way I can have it too.
Did you say bourbon casserole
No, although that sounds delicious. No,
with the cherry?
Reuben. It
What is it?
Reuben.
Oh,
Reuben.
Reuben.
Yeah,
Okay.
with pastrami. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, so cheese is one of your BFFs too.
Ugh. Yeah. And yet I know it makes me feel lousy. And I'm good at avoiding it for a good long time. But then boy, when I add it back in, it's kind of the same thing with peanut butter, that there's no control. I will overdo it and I feel lousy. So yeah, I'm not going to say never because I know that I will do it again and I'll feel lousy again and I'll cut it out again. But you know, there are worse things that I could do that with, I think.
Right. To me, that is my version of addiction. I know
Hmm.
how I feel after I eat it. It doesn't feel good. I will overeat it. The next day, I don't feel good both ways because I did it
Hmm.
and my body, and yet I'm compelled to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was me with sugar long before keto ever came along.
Oh yes. Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, do you ever partake in berries in season?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I do. And I do it off season too.
Mhm.
Berries are um, my treat. And, I might go and have them every day for a few days and then not for several weeks. So it's not that one I've not lost control over yet. But yeah, I do like those. And I do have both blackberry and raspberry bushes. So I'm happy when the birds eat their share because I don't need all of them. But I do enjoy the berries.
That's
And
cool.
usually it's blackberries, um, occasionally raspberries, and almost never, but sometimes blueberries.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when you eat, you have a bowl for your like main meal. Do you do portion type things like um smaller plates or smaller bowls? Is that part of it? Do you like to see an overflowing vessel of the food, or if you were cutting back, would it be the same size bowl, just less in it?
Yeah, the visual doesn't help or hurt, so I don't really do anything different that way.
Okay. And last time we talked, I remember you saying that you just pour like olive oil or something like that onto the mix. Do you still?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't. There really is. The only thing I measure is apple cider vinegar, which I do drink, and I know that makes you gag, but I do like it. So I that well, that's pretty much the only thing that I will use a measuring spoon for.
That's funny. I know I wasn't gagging. I was like laughing because it's like of all the things, you know, says
Right.
they overdo their apple cider vinegar, right?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
had a whole cup. Yeah, it was so. And what benefits do you feel you get from that?
Well, I actually used to do it a while back, and frankly, I don't remember why I did it. But just recently, I started again because you had, I think it was Melissa on, and she
With the
was,
Knox gelatin.
yes, yes. And she was doing it, and she said that she felt that it was helping with some inflammation in joints. I do still have a fair amount of pain in my back and my hips. Um, and I thought, it can't hurt. It's not going to hurt anything, so I may as well try and see. I do think part of that was the fact that I was also indulging in cheese, because that does make my joints flare up.
Does it? Wow.
It does, yeah. Um, but I don't think that that was the sole thing. I'm starting to think that maybe some of this pain is from carrying around too much weight for too many years. And I don't know that I'll never bounce back, but I think it's not happening as quickly as maybe I think it should. That, okay, weight's gone, I should feel fine now. But
Don't
it's
we
not,
sometimes think that?
yeah.
Now, how do you take it? How do you make a concoction like Melissa, or do you just
Mine is not quite as involved as hers. I make an apple cider vinegar soda. Doesn't that sound delicious? But it really isn't bad.
on my list? Not.
I use a half a lemon, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, a few drops of stevia, and seltzer. And believe it or not, it is pretty tasty.
Well, I think the stevia would
Yeah.
attract me. So would the
Mhm.
lemon.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. How are you with salt?
Um, Liberal. Yeah, um, I know I shared with you privately, and I will say that when I visited my cardiologist this year, we were going through, all the things that I'm doing and what numbers look like and all of that. And she said, "Now you're being cautious with salt, not eating much salt, right?" And I said, "Actually, the opposite. I'm eating a lot of salt because with the way I'm eating, it gets flushed out of my system. And if I don't have it, I can feel it." And she said, "Oh my gosh, that's really interesting. Well, I'm going to a conference next week. I'm going to take that information with me," which I thought was fabulous. I mean, the fact that she was willing to listen and say, "Okay, I can share this with other people."
Wow.
Yeah.
That is great. It's there's this man that sits across from me. He's in his late 80s at AA, and he says, "If you ever need a good cardiologist, Sarah," and he gives me the name, and he says she's a real stickler for salt. And it's like not retaining her name. I was
Right.
listening to a Paul Saladino podcast just a little while ago when I was doing my overnight. Have you ever listened to him?
I started one and then I got distracted, so I do need to go back. He was on with Ivor recently, wasn't he?
That
Or Ken Berry.
Oh, um, that's funny because after he was over, then I did go on to Ivor with somebody else, but this was Paul all by himself. He
Uh-huh.
started off shirtless. Not that I remember these things. Then he put on a shirt, and it was kind of a Q&A, so you could see that the questions were coming in, like it does when you do a live.
Mhm.
And he was saying that we should have 10 grams of sodium per day, and he used the term sodium. And he said he uses Redmond's because he believes that that is the least tainted, as all of the other ones that come from the ocean or towards the ocean have plastic in them now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just wondering, what kind of salt do you enjoy?
Well, Redmond's is one of them. And this is actually funny because I don't know if I ever would have had this sense before, but when I eat Redmond's, it tastes sweet. Do you feel, does it taste sweet to you at all?
No, but I think what it does for me is it makes me want more. So by the time I get to the last few bites of something, it's got like coating on it, like it's snowed. And I don't know what that means, but
Yeah. I don't use it on everything just because of that distinctive taste, I guess it is. I do like the Celtic salt. Um, the, that's probably my favorite. And every now and then I'll get some of the specialty salts. I like the things they're flaky. And again, that's a texture thing, you know. You get a
yes,
little bit of crunch.
that French one that comes in the nice little container.
I haven't tried that, but
Oh,
yes.
yeah, it's flakes.
Mhm.
And Frank Tufano, I don't know if you ever watch him,
Mm-mm.
did an entire video on salts.
Oh, really?
It was the Celtic, it was the French, it was the Redmonds, it was the pink Himalayan. He does not like pink Himalayan. To him, that's like a wannabe salt. But it was very, very interesting because I think when Frank is on his game and not rescuing beautiful vegan women, I think that he does a great job of explaining things. And so if you're ever curious about salts, I thought he did a good job, and he tasted it. And I find different salts for different things
Hmm.
taste better. I still do the Celtic salt, Celtic salt crystals on my tongue before
Hmm.
lemon water in the morning. And then after a day of when I've been busy and out, when I come back in the house to kind of like restore everything, I still like those crystals. But you're talking
Yes.
ground salt on your food with the Celtic.
Yes, and I will do the crystals too, the Celtic ones. And it's usually like if I'm just feeling not quite right, nothing I can put my finger on, but feel like I need something, that seems to help.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's like I can't believe how quick that salt like makes me feel like, I don't know, like I'm supposed to feel, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes on real quick. Like I guess they want us to think with Coca Cola or something.
Well, that's true. And for all the years that we did eat those food-like substances, that's my favorite description of that stuff. For all the years that you ate that, it really dulled your senses to how you react to food, what food really is, how it's supposed to taste. So to have this awareness of what truly is good, what feels good, what makes your body work the way it should, man, that's a gift.
I know. Nothing like the pure taste of food. I mean, salt and butter are my two favorite condiments, you know?
Right. Yep.
Um, so are you working on anything in the tweaking department, in the I want to do better in this area, so I'm working on this? Is there anything?
Um, that's kind of a week to week thing. And it is really just trying to be true to giving up the cheese, um, keeping my window hour sharper, and really trying not to give in to eating just because I feel like it. You know, that's not a good enough reason.
Do you,
Go ahead. Were you going, Tess?
oh, I was going to say, are you out of the winter boredom thing completely? And so,
Yeah, our schedules in the household are, I mean, they're always changing. When you have kids in the house, every different stage brings a different schedule. Um, but yeah, I feel like I'm kind of getting a little more sanity and kind of routine these days. And that's very helpful.
yeah, I like practiced routine myself. Um, if if I came to you and I was new with keto and I wanted to know how you did those 68 and what kept you waking up every day doing it, what would you say to me?
Well, part of it would be absolutely no cheating whatsoever. And I say that because as you know, I did that cheating 2 years ago and lost 8.5 months and gained 20 some pounds. So I know that this is something that, for me anyway, if I'm going to do it, it has to be absolute dedication. Um, and it just, the biggest part, I think, is getting through that first, well, for me, it was getting through the first 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, I don't know, month or two, when I really didn't feel well. And a lot of that was because I took a long time figuring out the electrolyte thing. Once I got that figured out, it was smooth sailing. So if you can get over that hump and your body starts to feel better, I think that's really what has kept me motivated, is that I feel well and I like feeling this way. And then, of course, the more you lose, yes, visually, I like that. But even more importantly, I love moving freely. Um, I exercised hard prior to keto. So it's not like I'm just starting that now. But the difference now is that it's absolutely joyful. I feel great moving. I still have aches and pains, but still that lightness is something that, and you can't put a price on that. It's fabulous. Um, so it's more fun to do everything. It's just fun to be alive. So uh, I think you get addicted to the feeling, which is so much better than being addicted to sugar.
Isn't it wonderful? Except you don't think that you ever can. Will I ever be able to?
Yeah,
Um, and a lot of people that I've interviewed, they didn't know how good they would feel until they got to that place.
right. Yeah. And
So,
another thing I think is we are conditioned to look at numbers on the scale, as you know. And it can be discouraging when people don't see those numbers moving. They can feel their body changing, they can feel the size changing, but until that number on the scale changes, it's almost like they that's their sole validation. So it's a matter of deprogramming that too. Like my husband's a great example. He's lost 30 or 35 pounds by now, and the scale has stopped moving. Now, I don't think he's really fully keto. I would say he's probably more in the low carb category. But even though the scale's not moving, his body is changing dramatically. And I keep saying to him, the scale doesn't matter. Look at the way you look at how you're carrying yourself, how you feel. It's completely different. So, and as I say, the scale doesn't matter. I'm still waiting for those last 6 pounds.
I know. Aren't we something? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just it's like DNA. It's like inside of us, and we still
Right.
have a lot of our worth going by that. But when I watch somebody, especially females that do carnivore,
Mm-hmm.
it because they started probably with low carb, high fat, and went to
Mm-hmm.
keto, and then went. And when I listen to them, they're not talking about how much they eat unless asked. They're not talking about what they weigh ever, ever. And it's like they've just got this whole new. It's like it's not about that anymore. And when most of us started, it was about what we eat and what we weigh.
Yeah.
How
Right.
much can we eat to get to where we want to
Oh
weigh?
gosh. Right. Yeah.
And it's just so funny because these women, like Amber, like Michaela, or those are two that I'm thinking of. Um, have you seen a second video from Kelly Hogan, the
No.
mother that had three carnivore pregnancies and births and everything?
Oh. Uh-uh.
I only saw that one. Maybe she's done more. I just haven't seen it. Maybe she's a Twitter person because so many people do things on other medium. medias that I just don't watch. But
Hmm.
and it's just so funny to see these women, and it's like, they aren't obsessed with the scale. They aren't obsessed with what they're eating. They just have a couple of pounds of meat and they move on. And it's like there seems to be like such an utter peace about them.
Hmm.
And it's just kind of an amazing thing. Whereas a lot of us, yeah, I weigh myself in 2 days. So when this airs, I will have weighed myself because I do it the first Thursday of the month. So I'll see, and it's just it helps me because
Yeah.
I don't think about it until the day before I'm going to weigh myself. As opposed to when I used to weigh
Which,
myself weekly, there's like 2 days before I weigh myself, the day I weigh myself. If I gain, the day I feel after, how I feel the day after. So it's like 4 days of every week was involved
right.
with that number.
Hmm.
And it's how often do you stand on that thing?
Sometimes it's every day.
Oh,
Sometimes I can stay off for a couple of weeks. It's not one of those things. And fortunately, although it still validates me to some degree, um, it's not that same sense of torture that it used to be. And I give myself a 3 pound window. So I count my lowest low, and anywhere within that 3 pounds, I still consider myself at that weight because it does fluctuate. And I know that. And anywhere within 3 pounds to me is reasonable with, the weather. Sometimes you just feel puffier, and that's okay.
I was
Um,
going to say, you live in a warm climate, so do you
yeah.
suffer from water retention when it's like 100% humid out?
Yeah. My rings are practically falling off in the winter and then they're glued on in the summer.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I know that that's coming and that I will start feeling that again.
that feeling.
Hmm.
We have been talking for 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Really? That goes so
Just felt
fast.
like that, didn't
Yeah,
it?
it did.
This was great because I love to hear the routine.
Hmm.
You gave us a pretty good snapshot of what your routine is like and how you do it. And I always am so inspired by those that can do it intuitively. And you can, because sometimes I feel that the ball and chain is the weighing and measuring, and yet sometimes I feel if I didn't weigh and measure,
Hmm.
yeah, then I'd really have a fear of weighing. But do it and pull it off. And I love how you um caught yourself. I think for me, like getting to, if you're out of the boredom thing, then you can reflectively look back and say, what tools, what strategy will I have for next winter? Uh,
Hmm.
for me, it's like get out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're homeschooling, right? So
Yeah. And we're kind of moving into a new phase. My older son just turned 18. My other one will be 15 next fall. So, things change as they get older and we do things differently. And I get more time on my own, which is both a blessing and a curse. So,
yes.
left to my own devices. Yeah.
Well, you look
Um,
great, and those 6 pounds, they're going to do what they're going to do.
yeah.
Yeah,
And if they never come off, I still have had tremendous gains. Well, yeah,
I
my
love
gains are
that.
my
Yeah.
losses. But I'm happy. So where I land, I land, you know. Can I give you a little bit of some props to Sarah?
Oh, okay.
I need to say to you, and I will say it also to Mike and Jim, because I'm sure they will watch you, Carnivore and Beating Obesity, how much I appreciate the fact that the three of you respond to people who comment, because you really do have a sense of community. And, for you, you see and talk to people on a daily basis through your channel. Me, I'm sitting here by myself. I'm not talking to somebody daily, but the fact that I can reach out to one of the three of you and I get a response makes me feel like I am part of the community. And it really is so important and helpful. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It does make a difference. And I did have that goal. I remember telling that to Mike before we started even doing Girly and the Cowboy in like a private email. I said,
Mm.
I don't know if I can keep doing this. And he said, I don't know how you do it. And I said, well, the deal is that I answer every email, even if they say something like, thanks, I'll comment back,
Mhm.
And I think it's important. I think if somebody takes the time to watch and comment, then, it's important to me to say, it's like the thank you note in a sense.
Yeah.
Jim and Mike do it too. I just watched Jim's one from Sunday where
Oh, I loved that.
huh?
I loved that.
It was kind of like, I felt like the baby bird. He was kind of like, go on, you can do this. Come on, I'm just encouraging you. Go do it. Check your physical stuff, It's like,
Uh-huh. Yes, I really enjoyed it. Every now and then there's an episode that especially speaks to you, and that was one for me as well of his that I really enjoyed.
and I told him that, you know, Chicago winters have to be brutal. And, behind him, you could see the sun on the green bushes. And he had on a short sleeve, like a t-shirt or something. And it was just like so nice to see him because I know he loves his son because he's done videos where he's like, sunbathing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great. And did you see Mike's a tour of the house or a tour of the yard?
Was that a new one? I saw one a while ago that he had done to show off
Marnie is,
Marnie's little garden
yes,
areas. Yes, that
yes.
was nice.
Yeah, it was nice. And,
Hmm.
I just, yeah, I couldn't do it without those two guys. They're really, you know, big in my heart and what they present to everybody too. They're also, I guess somebody called us or they call themselves the low production insistent people. And I think that's what I want to see too.
Sure. I don't need bells and whistles. I don't need anything fancy, and I don't need ketofied. So you guys are perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to say goodbye to our viewers. Thank you, Kim, for being here and
Thank you, Sarah.
us with your update from March. I thought it was great, and this is how we do it. We just get into it and do it. And you shared how you do it day after day, and that's what matters. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we're going to do a follow up in a few months. So
Sure. I'm up for that.
okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food. See you the next time. Bye bye for now.